ceasefire, in name only. Explosions, ambushes, casualties still rising. In just 24 hours, dozens of Israeli soldiers killed or wounded, many by hidden explosives in southern Lebanon. The message is clear: the fighting hasn't stopped, it's just changed shape. And as losses mount ahead of Remembrance Day, the question grows louder: is this a pause in war, or war continuing in silence? Despite a ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah, Israeli soldiers are still coming home wounded, and some are not coming home at all. The Israeli military has announced that 16 soldiers have been killed and 690 wounded since its operations in Lebanon began on February 28th. In the 24 hours prior to the announcement alone, 37 soldiers were killed or injured, most of them by explosive devices. Of the total wounded, 42 are in critical condition, and 96 have sustained serious injuries, with 149 soldiers still hospitalized. The Israeli military was explicit that operations to remove threats on the ground are not subject to the ceasefire, signaling that fighting has not truly stopped, despite the truce declaration. Reservist Command Sergeant Major Barak Kalfon was killed on April 18th, and Reservist Sergeant First Class Lidor Porat's death was announced on April 19th, both from explosive device incidents in what Israeli forces refer to as the Yellow Line, an unofficial buffer zone extending 4 to 10 kilometers inside Lebanese territory. The toll sits within a wider accounting of loss. Israel's Defense Ministry reported on April 20th that 170 soldiers have been recognized as fallen over the past year across all theaters of war, with 54 others recognized as disabled. Bereaved families in Israel now number 59,583 since record-keeping began in 1,860, a figure that includes more than 7,000 families who lost someone since the October 7th, 2023 incident. The announcements come just ahead of Israel's Remembrance Day, which begins on the night of April 21st and runs through April 22nd, a moment of national mourning that this year arrives with the conflict in Lebanon, far from settled, and the casualties still mounting. Meanwhile, the IDF is reportedly moving ahead with the destruction of buildings in southern Lebanese villages despite the ceasefire. Several IDF commanders told the Haaretz Daily that civilian homes, public buildings, and schools are being systematically razed as part of a policy to clear the area, which is currently part of the buffer zone created by the Israeli military inside Lebanon. Israel claims Hezbollah has been using civilian infrastructure to store weapons or dig tunnels under homes, and previously, IDF officers have said the military is only demolishing the infrastructure of Hezbollah. But according to Haaretz, the IDF doesn't appear to be differentiating between buildings exploited by the group and ones untouched, as entire towns are reportedly being razed to the ground. The commanders told Haaretz that the demolitions are carried out by paid contractors, including some who are compensated based on the number of buildings they destroy. A French peacekeeper was ambushed and killed in southern Lebanon on April 18th, and the finger is pointing squarely at Hezbollah. Staff Sergeant Florian Montorio was on a mission that should have been routine. His unit was clearing explosives off a road near the village of Ganduraya, trying to reach a UNIFIL outpost that had been cut off for days by fighting in the area. Then, out of nowhere, armed men opened fire. France's Armed Forces Minister Catherine Vautrin described what happened next.
This morning, while on a route-opening mission to an isolated UNIFIL post that had been cut off for several days by fighting in the area, he was caught in an ambush by an armed group at very close range. Struck immediately by direct fire from a light weapon, he was pulled back under fire by his comrades, who were unable to revive him.
3 other peacekeepers were wounded, 2 of them seriously. Within hours, French President Emmanuel Macron was on the phone with Lebanese President Joseph Aoun and Prime Minister Nawaf Salam. He was not mincing words. On X, Macron said directly,
"Everything suggests that responsibility for this attack lies with Hezbollah. France demands that the Lebanese authorities immediately arrest the perpetrators and take their responsibilities alongside UNIFIL."
UNIFIL, the UN peacekeeping force that has been stationed along the Israel-Lebanon border since 1978, put out its own statement. It called this a deliberate attack on peacekeepers engaged in their mandated tasks, and said its initial assessment indicated the fire came from non-state actors, a term that in southern Lebanon has one well-understood meaning. An investigation has been launched, but the broader context here is what makes this particularly alarming. This attack came less than 2 days after a fragile 10-day ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah was announced by US President Donald Trump. Hezbollah pushed back hard. The group issued a formal statement denying any connection to the attack, saying,
"We deny any connection to us with the incident that occurred with UNIFIL forces in the Gandaria area in Bint Jbeil, when these parties are absent and no voice is heard from them when the Israeli enemy assaults UNIFIL forces."
It's a deflection, but it's a calculated one. Hezbollah is pointing to a pattern. That international outrage over peacekeepers tends to be selective. That line will resonate with some. It won't satisfy Paris. Lebanon's own leadership condemned the attack. President Aoun told Macron his government will not hesitate to pursue those involved and bring them to justice. Prime Minister Salam ordered an investigation. Even Nabi Berri, Parliament Speaker and a long-standing Hezbollah ally, broke from the script. He personally called UNIFIL's force commander to offer condolences and praised, in his words,
"The sacrifices made by UNIFIL forces over the decades, particularly the French contingent."
That last detail is worth sitting with. When Hezbollah's own political allies are offering condolences, it suggests the group may be more isolated on this than its denial implies. And this is not an isolated incident. Last month, 3 Indonesian peacekeepers were killed in southern Lebanon. A preliminary UN investigation found one was killed by Israeli tank fire, and the other 2 by an improvised explosive device, likely planted by Hezbollah. UNIFIL's mission is set to end by late 2026. The question now is whether it can survive that long, and whether a ceasefire that Hezbollah didn't agree to, in a country still partly occupied by Israeli forces, can hold at all. Saturday's ambush didn't just kill a soldier, it put that entire already fragile arrangement under new and serious strain.